The gun pressed cold against Inara's temple as masked men dragged her through the rain-soaked warehouse, but her eyes locked with his across the chaos. Choi Tae-yoon, the paralyzed Mafia boss she'd been forced to marry just hours ago, now rising from his wheelchair with lethal grace, fury blazing in his dark eyes. He'd lied about everything. And as their gazes held, something primal and impossible ignited between them, fierce enough to burn down the world. Welcome to AfroKorean Romance, where love has no borders. If you believe in love, please like, share, and subscribe for more AfroKorean romance stories. 3 days earlier, Inara stood in her stepmother's marble foyer, hands trembling as the woman's cold voice delivered the ultimatum. Your stepsister won't marry a cripple. You will take her place, or I'll ensure your mother's medical bills remain unpaid. The words struck like physical blows. Inara's throat tightened. Her mother's cancer treatment depended entirely on her stepfamily's money they dangled like bait since her father's death. You can't force me to. I can and I will. The Choi family expects a bride tomorrow. You'll marry Tae-yoon or your mother dies. Her stepmother's smile was venomous. The choice is yours. The next morning, Inara found herself in a sleek black car heading toward the Choi estate, her simple dress a stark contrast to the luxury surrounding her. Rain streaked the windows as Seoul's skyline disappeared behind gated walls and armed guards. The driver's eyes met hers in the mirror. Mr. Choi doesn't receive many visitors. I'm not a visitor, Inara whispered. I'm his bride. The words tasted bitter. She'd never met Choi Tae-yoon, knew only whispers, the paralyzed Mafia boss who'd survived an assassination attempt that left him confined to a wheelchair, his empire crumbling, his enemies circling like wolves. The mansion rose before her like a fortress, all dark stone and sharp angles. Guards flanked the entrance as Inara stepped into a cavernous hallway lined with art worth millions. Then she saw him. Tae-yoon sat in a wheelchair near floor-to-ceiling windows, his profile sharp as broken glass. Even seated, his presence dominated the room. Dark hair swept back from a face too beautiful to be real, his tailored suit unable to hide the powerful build beneath. But it was his eyes that stopped her heart, dark, intense, and fixed on her with an awareness that made her skin flush. So you're the replacement. His voice was silk over steel. Inara lifted her chin. I'm the one your family will get. Something flickered in his expression. Interest, amusement, something darker. Later that evening, Tae-yoon's assistant delivered the marriage contract to her assigned room. The terms were clear. Marriage in name only, separate quarters, no expectations of intimacy. She would be his wife legally, nothing more. Inara signed with shaking hands, each stroke of the pen feeling like a chain snapping closed. Through the window, she could see Tae-yoon in the garden below, still in his wheelchair, staring at the city lights. Even from this distance, loneliness radiated from him like cold. She pressed her palm to the glass, chest aching with an emotion she couldn't name. The wedding ceremony the next day was small, clinical, attended only by family and key associates. Inara wore a simple white dress her stepmother had selected, too plain, too modest, designed to humiliate. But when Tae-yoon's gaze swept over her as she walked down the aisle, heat blazed in his eyes that made her breath catch. His hand was warm when he took hers, his grip firm despite his supposed condition. You're shaking, he murmured, low enough only she could hear. I'm terrified, she admitted. His thumb stroked her wrist once, a gesture so gentle it made her throat tight. Don't be, I don't bite. The lie in his eyes said otherwise. That night, Inara unpacked in her separate wing of the mansion, grateful for the distance but unsettled by the emptiness. Around midnight, she ventured toward the kitchen, unable to sleep. She found Tae-yoon there instead. He sat in his wheelchair at the island, a glass of whiskey in hand, still dressed in his wedding suit. His eyes tracked her movement as she froze in the doorway. Can't sleep. His voice was rough, intimate in the darkness. No, Inara stepped closer. You. I don't sleep much anymore. He gestured to the seat beside him. Join me. She shouldn't. but something in his expression, vulnerability beneath the armor, drew her forward. They talked for hours that night. About nothing. About everything. Tae-yoon spoke of his accident with clinical detachment, the ambush that left him paralyzed, the empire he'd built through blood and fear now threatened by his perceived weakness. Inara found herself sharing too, her father's death, her stepfamily's cruelty, her mother's illness. Words spilled from her lips she'd never spoken aloud. "Why did you really agree to this?" Tae-yoon asked suddenly, his gaze sharp. "My mother needs treatment I can't afford. And your stepsister. She called me names I won't repeat when she found out I was replacing her." Inara's voice hardened. She didn't want to marry a cripple. Tae-yoon's jaw tightened. "And you?" "I don't see you that way." The truth rang in her words. Something dangerous flashed in his eyes. The following morning, Inara woke to find a black card on her nightstand and a note in sharp handwriting. "For your mother's treatment. No limits. T." Her hands shook as she held it. This was more than a transaction. This was care. She found Tae-yoon in his office, surrounded by monitors and documents, his fingers flying across a keyboard with the speed of someone fully capable. "Thank you," she said from the doorway. He glanced up, expression unreadable. "Your mother's surgery is scheduled for tomorrow. The best oncologist in Seoul will perform it." Inara's eyes burned. "Why are you doing this?" "You're my wife." He said it like that explained everything. A few days later, Inara's mother was recovering well, and the mansion began to feel less like a prison and more like something else. Tae-yoon requested her presence at dinner each evening, their conversations growing longer, more personal. She learned he loved classical music, read philosophy in 3 languages, and had a wicked sense of humor hidden beneath his cold exterior. She learned his eyes softened when he looked at her, following her movements with an intensity that made her pulse race. She learned she was in trouble. That evening, Tae-yoon's business partner visited, a smooth-talking man named Director Kim who looked at Inara like she was dessert. "Your wife is stunning, Tae-yoon." Kim's smile was predatory. "Lucky man." Tae-yoon's knuckles whitened on his wheelchair armrests. "My wife is off limits." Of course, of course." Kim's gaze lingered on Inara's curves. "But if you ever need company, Mrs. Choi, I'm available." The temperature in the room plummeted. "Get out." Tae-yoon's voice was lethal calm. "Now." Kim left quickly, but the damage was done. Tae-yoon's fury was palpable, his jaw clenched so tight Inara feared it would crack. Later that night, she found him in the gym, a space she'd been told he never used, except he wasn't in his wheelchair. He stood at a punching bag, muscles rippling as he landed devastating blows, his body moving with the fluid power of a trained fighter. Inara's breath stopped. He'd been lying about everything. Tae-yoon's gaze snapped to her, eyes wild. For a moment, predator and prey stared at each other across the space. "You can walk," Inara whispered. He crossed the distance between them in 3 strides, backing her against the wall, his hands braced on either side of her head. "Yes." "Why lie?" "To survive." His breath was hot against her lips. "My enemies think I'm weak, broken, it keeps me alive." "And me," her voice shook. "What am I to you?" His eyes dropped to her mouth. "Dangerous." The next day, everything changed. Inara was leaving the hospital after visiting her mother when the van pulled up. Masked men grabbed her before she could scream, a cloth pressed to her face, and the world went dark. She woke in the warehouse, wrists bound, rain hammering the metal roof. Her captors spoke in rapid Korean, discussing ransom, discussing Tae-yoon's empire, discussing her value as leverage. Terror clawed through her veins. Then the doors exploded inward. Tae-yoon stood in the rain, no wheelchair in sight, flanked by armed men. His face was death itself. "Let her go, and you die quickly." The gunfight was brutal. Inara watched in horror and awe as Tae-yoon moved like violence incarnate, taking down enemies with lethal precision. When one man pressed a gun to her temple, Tae-yoon's eyes met hers across the chaos. "Close your eyes, Inara." She did. The gunshot rang out. The man behind her fell. Then Tae-yoon's hands were on her face, checking her for injuries, his touch desperate. Did they hurt you? No, she was shaking. You saved me. Always. The promise in his voice was absolute. Back at the mansion, Tae-yoon carried her inside despite her protests, setting her gently on the couch. His hands trembled as he cleaned a small cut on her cheek. I should have protected you better, he said hoarsely. You saved my life. I almost lost you. His eyes blazed. Do you understand what that would have done to me? Inara's heart hammered. Tae-yoon. He kissed her. It was fire and fury, desperation and need. His hands tangled in her hair as her fingers clutched his shoulders, the kiss deepening until she couldn't breathe, couldn't think, could only feel. When he pulled back, his forehead pressed to hers. I'm falling for you, Inara. It's reckless and dangerous and I can't stop it. Then don't, she whispered. That night he carried her to his room, their kisses growing heated, frantic. Clothes fell away between gasps and whispered confessions. His hands worshipped her curves as she learned the planes of his body, every scar a story, every touch a revelation. You're perfect, he breathed against her neck. I'm terrified, she admitted. Of me. Of this, of losing this. He pulled back to meet her eyes. You won't, I swear it. When they came together, it was everything, passion and vulnerability, intensity and tenderness. He moved inside her with devastating purpose, his gaze never leaving hers, his words a litany of praise and possession. Mine, beautiful, perfect, mine. After, he held her close, their heartbeats synchronizing in the darkness. But dawn brought fear. Inara woke alone, panic clawing through her chest. She'd given herself completely, and now he'd disappeared. The contract's words echoed in her mind, marriage in name only. She'd broken the rules, fallen in love, given her body and heart to a man who might not want either. She dressed quickly, tears streaming down her face, and called for a car. By the time Tae-yoon returned from his emergency meeting, she was gone. He found the note on his pillow, her elegant handwriting shaking. I can't be something you regret. Thank you for everything. Rage and terror warred in his chest. Tae-yoon made 3 calls. First, to his security team. Second, to freeze her accounts so she couldn't run far. Third, to his best tracker. Find my wife, now. He'd burned Soul to the ground before he let her go. Inara made it to a small hotel across the city before her card declined. She stared at the screen in disbelief, then her phone buzzed. Tae-yoon, running won't work, Inara. I control this city. Come home. Her hands shook. Inara, I can't. Last night was a mistake. Tae-yoon, the only mistake was letting you out of my sight. I'm coming for you. The certainty in his words made her chest ache. She turned off her phone. By evening, he found her. Tae-yoon walked into her hotel room like he owned it, because he probably did, his eyes blazing with fury and something deeper. You left. His voice was dangerously soft. I thought you'd want me too. He crossed the room in 2 strides, cupping her face with shaking hands. You thought I'd make love to you like you were my salvation, and then let you walk away. The contract said. Screw the contract. His forehead pressed to hers. I love you, Inara. I've loved you since the moment you walked into my house and looked at me like I was a man, not a monster. Last night wasn't a mistake. It was inevitable. Tears spilled down her cheeks. I love you too. His kiss was gentler this time, thorough and claiming. Come home, be my wife in every way. Yes. The following morning, Inara woke wrapped in Tae-yoon's arms in his bed, their bed now. Sunlight filtered through the curtains as his fingers traced lazy patterns on her shoulder. I'm moving your things to my room today, he murmured against her hair. Demanding, she teased, but her heart soared. When it comes to you, always. He turned her to face him, his eyes serious. No more separate wings, no more distance. You're mine, Inara, completely. The possessiveness in his tone should have frightened her. Instead, it made her feel cherished. And you're mine, she whispered back. His smile was devastating. Later that week, Tae-yoon's enemies made their move. Inara was shopping in Gangnam with his assigned bodyguards when the photos appeared online, doctored images of her with director Kim, headlines screaming about infidelity and gold digging. Her phone exploded with calls. The bodyguards rushed her to the car as photographers swarmed. By the time she reached the mansion, Tae-yoon was waiting, his jaw tight with fury. But when she stumbled through the door, shaking, he simply pulled her into his arms. "I know they're fake," he said against her hair. "I've already destroyed the source." "How?" His smile was cold. "Director Kim won't be a problem anymore. Neither will the reporters who published them." That evening, Tae-yoon called a press conference. Inara watched from the wings as he stood before cameras. No wheelchair, no pretense, his presence commanding absolute attention. "My name is Choi Tae-yoon, and the rumors about my condition were strategic deception. I am fully capable, fully in control of my empire, and fully devoted to my wife." His eyes found hers across the room. "Anyone who threatens her threatens me, and I protect what's mine with extreme prejudice." The room erupted in questions, but he ignored them, walking straight to Inara and kissing her in front of every camera. The message was clear: she was untouchable. A few days later, normalcy returned. Inara spent mornings visiting her mother, whose recovery was progressing beautifully, and afternoons learning Tae-yoon's business empire. He insisted she understand his world, the legitimate ventures and the darker ones. "I won't hide what I am from you," he said during one meeting, "but I'll keep the violence away from you." "I'm not fragile," Inara countered. His eyes heated. "No, you're fierce. It's one of the things I love most about you." She learned he ran pharmaceutical companies, shipping networks, and security firms, some legal, some operating in moral gray areas. His enemies were rival syndicates who resented his power. And they were planning something. The threat came that night. Tae-yoon's head of security burst into their bedroom at 2 a.m., his expression grim. "Sir, we've intercepted communications. The Kang Syndicate is planning a hit. They're targeting Mrs. Choi." Inara's blood ran cold, but Tae-yoon was already moving, pulling her from bed, barking orders. "Triple the security, activate the safe room protocols. No one gets near her." "Tae-yoon," Inara started. He cupped her face, his eyes fierce. "I will burn their entire organization to the ground before I let them touch you. Do you understand?" She nodded, trusting him completely. The next morning, Tae-yoon moved her to a secure location, a penthouse fortress with bulletproof glass and armed guards on every floor. He refused to leave her side, conducting business from the apartment while his team hunted the Kang Syndicate. "You don't have to stay," Inara said, watching him pace during a video conference. "I have guards." He ended the call immediately, crossing to where she sat. "You think I could focus knowing you're in danger? You think I could breathe?" His intensity stole her words. "I love you, Inara. That means your safety comes before everything, my business, my pride, my life." He kissed her forehead. "Get used to being protected. I'm never letting you go." Later that evening, his phone rang. Tae-yoon's expression darkened as he listened, his knuckles white. "Understood, I'm on my way." He turned to Inara. "They found the Kang Syndicate's base. I'm ending this tonight." Fear clawed through her. "Let your men handle it." "No," his voice was steel. "They threatened you, I finish it personally." "Then I'm coming with you." "Absolutely not." "You can't lock me away while you risk your life." Tears burned her eyes. "If something happens to you." He kissed her deep and claiming. "Nothing will happen, I promise. Wait for me. I'll come back to you." She watched him leave, her heart shattering with every step. Hours passed like years. Inara paced the penthouse, ignoring the guards' attempts to calm her. Her phone remained silent, no updates, no word. Then, at midnight, it rang. An unknown number. She answered with shaking hands. "Mrs. Choi," an unfamiliar male voice, cold and amused. "Your husband is currently bleeding out in our warehouse. If you want to see him alive, come alone. I'll send the address. The line went dead. Inara's world tilted. Every instinct screamed trap, but the thought of Tae-yoon injured, dying, was unbearable. She grabbed her coat and slipped past the guards while they changed shifts. The warehouse was in the industrial district, surrounded by darkness and decay. Inara's heart hammered as she stepped inside, phone flashlight cutting through shadows. Tae-yoon, her voice echoed. Footsteps behind her. She spun and came face to face with a man holding a gun, his smile vicious. Stupid girl, he's not here, but he'll come for you and then we'll have them both. Terror and rage warred in her chest. She'd walked into a trap. The man reached for her, and suddenly Tae-yoon was there, appearing from the shadows like an avenging angel. His fist connected with the man's jaw, sending him crashing to the ground. You touched what's mine. Tae-yoon's voice promised death. More men emerged, but Tae-yoon's team materialized with him, a coordinated assault that ended in minutes. When the last enemy fell, Tae-yoon turned to Inara, fury and relief warring in his expression. You left the safe house. His hands shook as he checked her for injuries. You could have been killed. They said you were dying. It was bait and you took it. He pulled her against him, his heart racing beneath her cheek. God, Inara, I can't lose you, I can't. She clung to him, tears soaking his shirt. I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. He just held her tighter. Back at the penthouse, the adrenaline faded, leaving raw emotion. Tae-yoon pulled Inara into the shower, washing the fear and grime away with gentle hands, his touch reverent. Never again, he whispered against her neck. You don't risk yourself for me, ever. You risk yourself for me constantly. That's different. No, it's not. She turned to face him, water streaming between them. We protect each other, that's what love means. Something broke in his expression. He kissed her desperately, and she responded with equal need, their bodies coming together under the hot spray with frantic urgency. Later in bed, he held her close, his fingers threading through her damp curls. Marry me again. She laughed softly. We're already married. I know, but I want to do it right this time. Not a contract. A real wedding. You in a dress you choose, flowers, vows that matter. His eyes met hers. I want the world to know you're mine by choice, not obligation. Tears blurred her vision. Yes, 1,000 times yes. The following month was a whirlwind. With the Kang syndicate destroyed, Tae-yoon's empire stabilized. He went fully legitimate, using his wealth and power for legal ventures, leaving the darker world behind. I'm doing this for you, he told Inara one night. Building something you can be proud of. I'm already proud of you, she whispered. But he was determined, transforming his empire into something that could withstand scrutiny, something their future children could inherit without shame. The thought of children made her heart skip. Their second wedding took place in a garden overlooking the Han River, surrounded by friends and family. Inara's mother sat in the front row, healthy and beaming, tears streaming down her face. Inara wore a gown that celebrated her curves, crystal beading catching the light. When Tae-yoon saw her walking down the aisle, his eyes grew suspiciously bright. You're breathtaking, he whispered when she reached him. You're not so bad yourself, she teased, taking in his perfectly tailored tuxedo. Their vows were simple but profound. Promises of protection, devotion, partnership, and endless love. When he kissed her, the crowd erupted in applause, but Inara only heard her heart singing. A few weeks later, Inara missed her period. She took 3 tests, hands shaking, hardly daring to hope. When the third came back positive, joy flooded through her in waves. She found Tae-yoon in his office, buried in paperwork. He looked up when she entered, his expression softening immediately. What's wrong? Nothing's wrong. She crossed to him, taking his hands and placing them on her still flat stomach. Everything's perfect. Confusion flickered across his face, then understanding, then wonder so profound it stole her breath. You're pregnant, his voice cracked. We're pregnant. He pulled her into his lap, kissing her with trembling lips, his hands cradling her belly protectively. A baby, our baby. Are you happy? Happy, he laughed, the sound breaking with emotion. Inara, you've given me everything. A real marriage, love, purpose, and now this. He pressed his forehead to hers. I'm the luckiest man alive. The pregnancy progressed beautifully. Tae-yoon became impossibly more protective, monitoring her health obsessively, ensuring she wanted for nothing. He talked to her belly every night, his deep voice reading stories and making promises. I'll protect you both forever, he whispered one evening, his hand on her growing bump. Nothing will ever hurt you. Inara's heart overflowed. We know, we trust you. He looked up at her, love blazing in his eyes. I never thought I'd have this. A family, real happiness. You deserve it, she cupped his face. You deserve everything. Their daughter was born on a spring morning, arriving with powerful lungs and her father's dark eyes. Tae-yoon held her with shaking hands, tears streaming down his face as he counted her tiny fingers. She's perfect, he breathed, just like her mother. Inara watched her fierce mafia boss transform into a gentle father, his entire world now contained in the bundle in his arms. What should we name her? She asked. He looked at her, then back at their daughter. Hana, it means flower, one, our first miracle. Hana, Inara repeated, loving it immediately. It's perfect. 3 years later, Inara stood on their penthouse balcony, watching Tae-yoon play with Hana in the garden below. Their daughter's laughter rang out as he chased her, his face alight with joy. Her hand rested on her belly, where their second child grew, a son, according to the ultrasound. Life had transformed completely. From a forced marriage to a mafia boss she'd never met to this, a love so profound it anchored her soul. Tae-yoon had kept every promise, protection, devotion, partnership, family. She'd been forced into his world as a replacement bride. She'd stayed by choice. And she'd never been happier. As if sensing her thoughts, Tae-yoon looked up, his eyes finding hers across the distance. The love in his gaze was everything, fierce, possessive, eternal. He mouthed 3 words, I love you. She mouthed them back, her heart full to bursting. Their story had started in darkness, forced by circumstance and cruelty. But they'd found light in each other, built a family from ashes, transformed obligation into devotion. Hana called for her, and Inara headed down to join them, her husband's arms opening to welcome her home. Where she'd always belonged. Where love had conquered everything.